Now I want to turn to Martin Brechbiel, MMR. Martin, welcome.
Hey, Jim. Just get myself together here. Something close to together. Here we are, or so it seems. Or here we were. Okay. Well, this is where we stopped last week. We had some barrels with lids on them, handles made, just kind of resting there quietly. The tops are still loose. But we're going to change that by the time we're done here tonight. We'll get these anchored down good and tight. But first, we need a flat car. So the standard flat car, as I term it now, is what comes out of my shop, plus or minus this one. Things move around a little bit. I must have felt flush or something because I used a nice brass casting instead of the usual plastic, white metal, or even 3D printed one. So, but I made the lever hangers just out of some brass stock. It's the usual brake system, K-brake. Don't have the truss rods up on the queen post yet, but we'll stretch that surgical silk later and pop them into place. Right now, there's a little bit of tension on them, but there'll be real tension on it later to hold it all together. Okay, well, they actually fit on top of the flat car. Fancy that. How did that ever happen? I must have measured something. Okay, so they fit nicely. They spread out. First and third one over the bolster. The middle one's sort of in the middle. They're just sitting there right now, resting quietly. And you can see we've got lots and lots of nut bolt washer castings. It's a lot of time with the handheld Dremel drilling holes and then inserting nut bolts and washers. Barrel bands are just styrene wrapped around, joined together with a little scrap on top. Unfortunately, they're glued to the wood with a little bit of CA and some glue and what have you, but just at the joinery point, and they're loose actually everywhere else. And unfortunately, I have to use MEK to do this because I'm just about out of my methylene chloride. And as I understand it, I will never get that replaced. So I have to put up with the nasty smelling MEK. So it works nicely enough. Okay, now here's how we're going to mount them onto the flat car. There's two cross members that go on top that hold the lids down. So I didn't have to glue them on. They're actually held down in place. I forgot what size pieces of stripwood that is, but they're it's sizable. It's like 4x6 or 4x8, or yeah, probably closer to 6x8. Those are brass 46 thousandths brass rod. So you drill through it and stick the rod through it, figure out where it's going to go through the decking in the car, take it all back off, drill the hole, put everything back, push it through the top, push it through the decking, drop a goo in it or drop a CA from the underside, shear off some nut bolt and washer castings, drop them on top of where the shafts are, where the 46 thousandths brass is, and those are not going anywhere now. But I will concede or admit, I never actually glued the tubs down to the decking. So you could probably move it around a little bit if you wanted to. They're not permanently attached, so to speak, but you might have difficulty getting them out from underneath there. So we'll add some more details and splash some paint on it. This is two different colors of red. I think actually one is Southern Freight Car Brown, which is actually a red. We add some stirrup steps. You put the truss rods up on the queen post. You can see that peeking out from underneath. Brake wheel, ratchet and pawl, stirrup for the brake. And there's the funky air hoses that Greg asked me about last week, if I was going to use those. The answer was yes, and there they are. You actually can buy these from Wiseman. They're a back shop product. He still has them in stock. They're so unique, I just had to have them, put them in here. The only problem is, I don't know if you can see it, there's a little support piece right here. This comes up and comes over at right angles. That's not included. So you have to solder a little piece of brass, in this case phosphor bronze, on and have it set at an angle. And then this actually slides through the end sill with a sleeve, a little union joint on it that matches up and marries up to the the train line. So you're sliding this through the hole and laterally in this direction through the end of the car while you're putting the brass piece of wire down to the decking at about a 60-degree angle. Colorful language was involved with this exercise. These are two different opposing directions to move things. And in fact, at one point it ended up in the air, flying through the air because it was sprung so tightly. I was desperately following it down to the floor and pouncing on it before it vanished. Things that fall on the floor vanish until you don't need them anymore, and then they magically appear in the bottom of your foot. But these are really kind of interesting and fun to put in. They really add a completely different element to this car. So there's the other end. You can see how this piece comes back off of here and comes down at a funky angle. It's in the photos of the prototype. And so I thought, well, I have to put that in since I'm making a half-hearted attempt to build a prototype car. So paint, a couple of coats of Flowquill. Nothing like the smell of Flowquill in the afternoon to get you take a good nap. And so we put on trucks and couplers, some arch bars with some Intermountain wheel sets, Athearn trucks. I find those are good enough for most of my purposes. I have a hard time putting $40 or higher price trucks underneath a wooden car that I just built. Philosophical difficulty. And painting all the black parts. And the other side of the car, strangely enough, just looks like the other side, only it's reversed. Final thing to do. Well, I wasn't going to letter it, and then I thought, well, why not? It's a little bit of a odd car to be running on the Cumberland Valley Railroad system. We're a long ways away from Uintah. And of course, Uintah was narrow gauge. So, okay, so I cheated. I took a narrow gauge car and made it standard. So I raided my dry transfer supplies, which are all, I have a big pile of custom printed stuff from Clover House years ago, page after page, all printed up for the Cumberland Valley Railroad and the Chambersburg, Greencastle, and Waynesboro railway system. So every now and then I have to go in and steal the various letters out of that and make do and create something. And fortunately, between the two, I have Uintah Railway and, of course, numbers. So, and despite the number of years storing them in a cigar box in my shop, in a nice, which is incredibly dry, they still work perfectly fine. And there's the car from the other side. And that's another completed car. Just grinding them out as fast as I can here. It's kind of quick. So I actually kind of thought this would take 3 weeks, but it ended up taking only 2. So I have no idea what we're going to talk about next week. I'll have to get speedy. So that's the end. And questions are, it's that time.
Anybody have any questions for Martin?
Yes, Martin, have you got a picture of the actual, it's Pat here,
Yeah.
of the actual car that it hooked up
Yeah.
to something else?
Oh, yeah. Oh, this car?
Well, no, but the actual type of
The
hookup
real,
they had.
oh, yeah, I showed that last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was one of the first slides. It's actually in a issue of Narrow Gauge Shortline Gazette in the 88, 89, somewhere in there,
Okay, thank you.
plus or minus 5 years.
We'll find it.
Well, I'm not going to memorize these things if I don't have to.
Thanks, Martin.
Anybody else? Well, I guess we'll come back next week with something new. I don't know what it'll be.
See you next week, Martin. Thank you so much.
All right.